The First Voyage Around the World by Antonio Pigafetta. In this video discussion, we will travel back in time to rediscover on the integral parts of our Philippine history. And we will also talk about the important events and explain its importance in understanding of the history in the Philippine setting. So, Antonio Pigafetta was also known by the name of Antonio Lombardo or Francisco Antonio Pigafetta, born in Vicenza around 1490, died in the same city in 1534. He studied astronomy, geography, cartography, and served on board the ships of the Knights of Rhodes at the beginning of 16th century. His travelogue is one of the most important primary sources in the study of pre-colonial and the Philippines. This account was also a major referendum to the events leading to Magellan's arrival in the Philippines. His encounter with local leaders is dead in the hands of Lapu-Lapu's forces in the Battle of Maclan, and the departure of what was left on Magellan's fleet from the island. And lastly, the book about Ferdinand Magellan was written by him on board in one of the 5 ships that was first to circumnavigate around the world.
During our introductory days, we heard a lot of stories about Magellan as he is one of the Europeans who visited the Philippines. But the question is, what are the bases about this claim or the history about Ferdinand Magellan's expedition? One of them is the book which is written by Antonio Pigafetta. At the end of the voyage, Antonio Pigafetta, the author of the book, was on board to Victoria, and this was the only ship that was able to return to Spain. Upon arrival in Europe, Pigafetta presented copies of his accounts to several high personnel including Pope Clemente VII, mother of King Francis of France, and etc. His original diary was lost and it is not known in what language it was written, but luckily, 4 manuscript versions survive, 1 in Italian and 3 in French.
King Charles provided Magellan 5 ships under his command. The ships are Trinidad, San Antonio, Victoria, Concepcion, Santiago. Spices were in-demand commodities among the Europeans because of its numerous benefits such as food preservation, flavor enhancement, and medicine. Treaty of Tordesillas was effective at that time. According to Britannica Encyclopedia, it is an agreement between Spain and Portugal aimed at settling conflicts over lands newly discovered or explored by Christopher Columbus. In search for spices, the Spaniards financed Magellan's plan to go to east via a westward direction after his plan was turned down by Portugal. Through going westward, the treaty between Spain and Portugal was not violated. 5 boats were given to Magellan, but only 1 remained after the expedition, which is Victoria. Of the 270 men at the beginning of the expedition, there were only 18 survivors, including Antonio Pigafetta, who kept a journal about the expedition.
Analysis of the important historical information found in the document. Since Magellan and his crew crossed the international dateline, there is 1 day added to the original dates that Antonio Pigafetta wrote in his book for the better perspective of the Filipinos. Throughout the expedition, there served a translator named Enrique, and Enrique is from Sumatra, present-day Indonesia, and he is a slave of Ferdinand Magellan.
On March 17, 1521, Pigafetta reported that they reached Zamal, now Zamar, but Magellan decided to land in another inhabited island for greater security, for they could rest for some few days. After 2 days, March 18, 9 men came to them to show joy and eagerness in seeing them, and welcomed them with foods, drinks, and gifts. On April 1, 1521, Magellan ordered the captain to preside a mass by the shore. The king sent 2 dead pigs and attended the mass with 2 other kings. Pigafetta explained that Magellan ordered to the cross he brought with nails should be planted in a place because it will be beneficial for other people. Because once the Spaniards saw this cross, they would know that they have been in this land and that will be cause trouble.
On April 8, 1521, Magellan's interpreter explained to Ra Humabon that Magellan's king was the emperor of the Great and that it would be better to make friends with them. Ra Humabon consulted his council and they met in an open space, and the king offered a bit of his blood and also demanded Magellan to do same. On April 15, 1521, Pigafetta showed the Queen Hara Amihan an image of a very beautiful wooden child Jesus and a cross, and asked for the little child Jesus to keep in the place of her idols, and this image of child Jesus is now known as the Santo Niño found in Cebu. After 8 days, all of the island's inhabitants were all baptized. Pigafetta admitted that they burned a village down for obeying neither the king nor Magellan, and the mass was conducted by the shore every day. On April 27, 1521, Magellan died in the battle, and Pigafetta described how Magellan died.
Magellan thought that if he burned the houses of the native, they will run and they will be scared. But instead of being scared, the native got even more angry, and because of that, the battle in Mactan started. Magellan was shot in the right leg and thought that the arrow has a poison. Magellan ordered to make an attack, but they ran away and only 15 of his men remained. The ship's crew would have helped, but it was too far from the shore, so they decided to return. Because Magellan has fatal wounds, he remained on the shore and his men ran away. Magellan was killed by Lapu-Lapu's men. After the battle, Magellan's men returned to Raha Humabon and he invited them in a feast, but they didn't know that it was a trap. 27 of them were killed by Raha Humabon's men and some of them escaped. Among the 5 ships, Victoria is the only ship survived, finally arrived at Seville.
Antonio Pigafetta's The First Voyage Around the World is a vital piece not only in the Philippine history, but also of world history. It is considered as primary source as Pigafetta was present during the time of the events that transpired during their expedition. Pigafetta's writing is the most cited document by historians, researchers, and students who wish to study the pre-colonial Philippines. His account was also a reference to the events leading to Magellan's arrival in the Philippines. Being the earliest detailed documentation, it was believed that Pigafetta's writings account for the period's pre-colonial society and was seen as a credible source for a period which was prior unchronicled and undocumented.
For the last part, let us proceed to the effects of this primary source to the history of Filipino people. Magellan was credited with leading the first expedition that proved that the world is round and not flat by sailing from east to west. After him, 5 more Spanish expeditions followed between the year 1525 and 1542, starting Spain's colonization of the Philippines in the next 3 centuries. Antonio Pigafetta described the past Filipinos as naked, and according to him, some were bearded. Pigafetta's work is important not only as a source of information about the voyage itself, but also includes an early Western description of the people and languages of the Philippines. Of the approximately 240 men who set out with Magellan, Pigafetta was one of only 18 who returned to Spain. Pigafetta's work helps us understand how people of the past live, and we discover the religion of the Filipinos from the past used to have, and they became Christians. Pigafetta's journal is a vital piece not only in the Philippine history, but also of the world history. And lastly, he narrated the events that transpired in a way that gives the readers of his journal a clear picture of what it was like to be part of the first voyage around the world.